Saturn, according to popular thought, isn't merely the planet of doom, hard work, and unpleasant things that no one likes. Saturn also reflects your approach to commitment and your partnership, particularly when it comes to the concept of control. To summarize, Saturn sign compatibility with your romantic partner is as vital to consider as emotional compatibility, sexual compatibility, and even marital compatibility. But how does Saturn affect our romantic lives? If you look at two people's synastry charts, the Saturn connections between them can reveal whether they have similar temperaments or irritate each other. It can reveal whether they will appreciate each other, value their relationship, and strive together to make it work, or if they believe the other party is attempting to stifle them or limit their freedom and creativity. So, keeping this in mind, let's have a look at the finest Saturn sign compatibility for each zodiac sign. Saturn in Aries and Saturn in Capricorn. If your Saturn is in Aries, there is nothing you cannot achieve if you put your mind to it. You prefer to work alone in silence and are exceedingly self-sufficient. If your Saturn is in Capricorn, your life's objective is to leave your imprint on this job. And because Saturn rules Capricorn, these people are exceptionally focused, ambitious, tight-lipped, and well-organized. Aries and Capricorn may appear to be a strange couple, but this is Saturn compatibility at work. Surprisingly, a square aspect is the most preferred here. Mostly because Saturn in Capricorn recognizes Saturn in Aries' strength and energy and makes Aries feel as if they can rely on them as a colleague without feeling suffocated or reliant. Saturn in Aries helps Saturn in Capricorn by providing acute insights and unusual ideas. They even describe the cognitive process till Saturn in Capricorn realizes why it's a aha rather than a oh no. Saturn in Taurus and Saturn in Cancer. You are a frugal person with Saturn in Taurus. If you can avoid it, you don't like to spend money on items. Because of this inclination, those who don't understand you may label you as a miser. But this is because you are terrified of becoming financially dependent on others someday. If your Saturn is in Cancer, you are the polar opposite of a crybaby. You seldom ever weep. This placement may reflect an extremely severe mother or a negligent family life for others. People with this placement, on the other hand, are extremely wise. Your intuition is also quite powerful. It's not pyrotechnics when Saturn in Taurus and Saturn in Cancer collide. That is not how Saturn operates. It's more of a, you are growing on me and I can't live without you anymore. This is a prudent pair who spends their money sensibly and plans for all contingencies. With time, they realize they can rely on each other for the long haul. Saturn in Gemini and Saturn in Leo. Saturn in Gemini natives find it tough to make friends or even speak up when necessary. They are the polar opposite of talkative. And occasionally they are born into families where they are an outcast or have siblings who are their worst enemies. With Saturn in Leo, you dislike being in the spotlight. Children with this placement have a history of being bullied at school, or hating it when teachers call on them to answer questions in front of the class. Saturn in Leo, on the other hand, offers you the conviction to stand on a stage and become a leader on that subject later in life, once you become an expert at anything. When Saturn in Gemini and Saturn in Leo meet, they initially admire each other in silence. Neither of them wants to initiate contact. Saturn in Leo eventually takes the lead. And it is through their influence that Saturn in Gemini can find their voice and feel protected. Saturn in Gemini has a positive influence on Saturn in Leo. Their astute observations take Leo by surprise. The two could even collaborate on research. Saturn in Virgo and Saturn in Scorpio. To be honest, Saturn has a strong affinity for the sign of Virgo. It's like putting paint in water. It can produce stunning swirls and be completely captivating. That is also the nature of those with Saturn in Virgo. They excel at what they do, especially if it is a pastime or ability that demands a lot of patience and precise craftsmanship. Saturn, on the other hand, usually emerges in one of two ways in Scorpio. Either the native is sexually repressed as a result of his or her religious upbringing, or they were subjected to a horrific encounter at the hands of another, most likely an authority person who duped them. Something extremely amazing happens when these two come together. When these two come together, something incredible happens. Saturn in Virgo is impressed by Saturn in Scorpio's actions and outlook on life, while Saturn in Scorpio's latent intensity causes Saturn in Virgo to feel emotions they have never felt before. In very diverse ways, this synastry might make both parties each other's inspiration. Saturn in Libra and Saturn in Sagittarius. People with Saturn in Libra are the polar opposite of the party animal. But they crave to be a part of some social circle anyway. But no matter how hard they try, they always end up being wallflowers. Saturn in Sagittarius makes people wary of new experiences. They don't want to expand their minds and be misled, thus they can become highly closed-minded. Regardless of the connection between Libra and Sagittarius, this pairing is challenging initially. But the two finally discover, with time and exposure, which is essential for this relationship, that they are a good match. Saturn in Libra meets the companion they were looking for in Saturn in Sagittarius. While Saturn in Sagittarius finally finds a committed partner in Saturn in Libra that was eluding them so far. Saturn in Aquarius and Saturn in Pisces. Saturn in Aquarius piques the native's interest in the future and how they might bring it into the present. But it also makes you feel isolated and misunderstood, and sometimes even helpless since you don't know how to bring your idea to life. Saturn is distrustful of mysticism and the afterlife in Pisces. However, these indigenous have far more spiritual experiences than most. It's almost as if the universe is doing everything it can to reconvince them. When these two meet, something miraculous occurs that both reject at first because it is not their temperament. It almost feels predestined. Of course, Saturn in Pisces is unaware that they are the ones who bring the fated element to the table. And being around them finally aids Saturn in Aquarius in finding the missing components to bring their vision to life. Saturn in Aquarius, on the other hand, is intrigued by Saturn in Pisces' strange experiences. They also encourage them to delve deeper and discover why they are experiencing what they are. This allows Saturn in Pisces to embark on an experience they didn't realize they needed.